Hey awesome people, welcome to another episode of SewAddicts. This week we are making bras. Well, we're sort of making bralettes, but I kind of added my own spin on it. I've always been a big fan of the bralette. I just think it's like a really cute style of a bra, and it's very feminine, you know, lacy, and has all those inner workings that are just amazing. Anyway, I did use a pattern for this bra, and guess what, guys? It was free. It was free online. It's actually called the Maya bra. So if you guys do make this bra, please give them some kind of credit because the patterns are free and they're really good. So all you gotta do is just let them know your band size and your cup size, and you can print out the bra pattern for free. I know, it's amazing. Anyway, I did make a couple of changes to my bra, just how I wanted it, but I did show you guys step by step how to actually go through this tutorial in making a bra. I was super amazed and just really happy with how the bra actually came out. So I really hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. If you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you haven't hit the subscribe button already, please make sure to hit down that red subscribe button at the bottom of this video so you can see more awesome videos from me, and let's just get started. So we're just gonna go right ahead and run through the materials we need for a lace bra. So the first thing you need is about 3/4 of a yard of lace fabric. You wanna get lace fabric that actually has nice scallop edges, as we're gonna be using these edges later on in the video. You also wanna get about a half yard of mesh fabric that kind of complements or really complements your lace fabric. Then we're also going to be using bra straps as well for our lace bra. Now you also want to get bra straps, they do match your main fabric. Then we're going to be using closures. So as you guys can see, I have a 3 hook and eye closure. You can get a 2 hook and eye closure or a 3 hook and eye closure. You also want to get one that complements your fabric. The next thing we're going to be using is boning. Now we're using a nice shell plastic boning. You only need about half a yard of this. Also, we're going to be using lingerie elastic. Now you can buy this from any craft store and they come in a 2-pack just like this. The last but not the least is underwire. Now you can buy this off Amazon or any craft store, but you can also take this out of any old bra you're not using anymore and it would be a perfect fit. So we're gonna go right into the pattern that we cut out. So the pattern we cut out actually has a lot of categories, but we're not going to be using all the patterns. You're going to basically use only the C's, the B's, and the H. Anything that's F, you're just not going to use it because that's actually for the foam part of the bra, and we're not putting a foam in, so we don't need the F pattern. For our top cup, we only need the C1, C2, and C3. Now for the cradle and the back wing, which are these two, you have the H1, H2, B1, B2. Now, the H1 and H2 are for the 2 hook and eye closures, and the B1 and B2 are actually for the 3 hook and eye closures. Now, I'm going to be using the B1 and B2 because I have the 3 hook and eye closures. Now, if you had a 2 hook and eye closures, then you would be using the other pattern. So I went ahead and actually cut the cups out. Now, when it comes to the cradle and the back wing, I wanted mine to be a little bit different. So I'm going to be altering this pattern just a little bit. You don't have to do this, but I actually wanted mine to be somewhat of a corset looking lace bra. So I'm going to be extending how long I want my bra to actually be. So I'm extending mine by 2 inches. You can definitely extend yours a little shorter or a little longer depending on your preference, or you can just leave it the way the pattern is. So as you guys can see, I'm marking 2 inches all around my under bust just like this, and I'm basically extending the length of my bra. So you want to make sure to do the same thing for the back wing as well. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is just because we've extended this, now we also got to alter to make sure that it matches when we're done. So this part of my back wing is actually my side seam, but the other part is where I put my closure. Now, if we've extended this, you can notice that it's going to be really big for my hook and eye closure to fit. So now we're going to shorten this section that takes in the closure and blend it into the side seam, so the side seam fits into my cradle front pattern. So now I'm going to be taking off that 2 inches that we added to the bottom, but I'm only going to be taking it off at the top of my closure side and blending it into my side seam. The only reason we're doing this, it's so my closure, the 3 hook and eye closure, is able to match at the end. And then I'm also marking my notch. You want to make sure to mark all your notches in all the patterns. So we're just blending that in, so we have our side seams that fit, and we have the 3 hook and eye closure that's going to fit right at the end. So when you've pretty much marked all this, then you're just going to go right ahead and actually cut this out nice and neat. So the next thing we're going to do is actually sew our cups together. Now the cups pattern, it's pretty straightforward. You also want to cut this out in your mesh, by the way. So now we're just going to put in our cups pattern together. Now you also want to make sure to match the cups pattern notch to notch. So it should look like an eye or egg looking shape. You want to make sure to do this for both cups, and also make sure to sew your mesh as you're going along. The mesh is basically going to be repeated the same way, just like the main lace fabric. So after sewing all this down, as you guys can see, it's nice and neat. The next thing you want to do is to actually press that seam open. This is going to give you a nice flat finish, and it also is going to lay nice as well. So after pressing this finish, as you guys can see, it's laying really nicely. And then now we're gonna put in the top part of our cup. Now the top part of our cup, as you guys can see, this edge is a little bit more slopey than the other edge of the cup. So now that slopey edge should be attached to the larger side of the cup. You guys can see this side is actually larger than the other side. So you wanna attach the slopey edge to the larger side of the cup, and then you pin this all the way around. Now we're going to be sewing this at 1/4 inch. The seam allowance for this pattern is 1/4 inch. So you want to sew this all around just like that. Now you want to make sure to just walk this nice and slow so it fits all around the cup. So as you guys can see, this is actually already forming into a cup. The larger side is here, and the smaller side of the lace fabric is also here, and everything is laying nice and flat. Now the next thing we're going to do is to actually push the seam allowance to the upper side of the cup, and we're just going to top stitch this down nice and neat. This gives it a really nice crisp finish. So I'm just top stitching that, as you guys can see, and it lays nice and flat. You also want to repeat the same exact process for your mesh. Now when we're putting the mesh in, you want to make sure to put left sides to left side. So that's the wrong side of the mesh and the wrong side of the lace fabric together. So now we're going to go right into our cradle. Now to put this in, it's super easy. We're going to attach our cradle to our back wing first. So again, I have cut out the mesh fabric out of the cradle as well, and I have the lace fabric out of the cradle as well. Same thing you want to do for the back wing. One mesh, one lace fabric, the other side another mesh, and one lace fabric as well. Now we're going to be attaching this at the side seam, so you want to sew this down at 1/4 inch as well. So we're going to be attaching the side seams on both sides. So after sewing this down, you also want to make sure to press. Now we're going to put in our cups. Now keep in mind, putting in the cups, you want to make sure that the smaller side of the lace fabric, as you guys can see, of the cup is actually the one that's in the middle of the cradle. So this smaller side is going to go in the middle, and the bigger side is going to go towards the side seam. So this is how you know which cup is left or which cup is right. So now we're going to be attaching this to our cradle. Now you want to make sure that seam is matching that notch. Make sure to mark all the notches on your pattern before actually sewing. So now we're going to basically pin this all around. We're going to be sewing this on the sewing machine, but first you want to make sure to pin it so it has a nice crisp finish when you're done, and it gives you a little bit of direction when sewing. So when you're sewing this all down, it should look something like this. So your cup is really coming along nicely, and your bra is already looking like an actual bra. So the next thing we're going to do is to actually put in our boning. Now, we're going to be putting the actual shell for the boning and not the actual boning when it comes to the cup. So I'm just measuring around, but I'm going to actually get rid of the plastic boning because I only need the shell of the actual boning. Now this shell is going to be attached around the cup area so we can put our underwire. Now you want to make sure to fold the edge of the casing a little bit below the actual edge of your fabric. As you guys can see, I came in about 1/4 of an inch below, and now I'm just actually following my cup size, and I'm just making sure to line this all around my cup. You want to make sure to do this all around the cup, lining it right at the edge of the seam. So when you get to the other side, we're just going to snip a cut or shell casing. Now for this part, you don't need to fold it like we did in this other edge because we want to be able to actually put in the underwire. So now we're just going to go right ahead and actually stitch at the edge of our previous seam, making sure to catch the casing. And then you also want to put another stitch at the edge of the casing, making sure it lays nice and flat. So you want to do this for both sides of your cups, and we're also going to be putting boning at the side seams. Now for this, you actually want to make sure to put the plastic boning into the shell case. And again, you want to make sure to come down a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch away from the edges. And then we're just going to be sewing this down, making sure to stitch both sides to the lace. So after sewing this, it should look something like this. It's laid nice and flat. We have the 2 stitches going along the casing, making sure it's nice and neat. And then we're just gonna go right ahead and actually put in the underwire. So I have my underwire, and we're gonna go right ahead and actually pass this through the casing, making sure to give our cup the nice shape that it deserves, the nice shapes that it actually has. So as you guys can see, everything is really coming together. You want to make sure to put the underwire in to give it that nice shape for your bust. So after putting this in, the next thing we're going to do now is to actually finish this up with the lingerie straps. Now, putting this is pretty much easy. It's just like a lingerie elastic. So you want to make sure to actually line this from one edge all the way to where the boning casing stops. Now, as you guys can see, this actually has the nice design edge. So you want to make sure that that edge is actually facing upwards, and we're just going to line this and place this neatly around the bust area. Now you want to make sure that you're not also pulling on this elastic. You want to make sure that it's laid nice and flat, and then when we get to that shell casing, we're just going to snip that right off, and that's about where we're going to sew it to. So from the edge here to the edge here. Now you want to make sure to do this for the other side of your bra as well, and we're also going to be doing it for the bottom of the bra as well. Now, usually you would want to sew this with a zigzag stitch. Now, if you don't have a zigzag machine, you could definitely just sew this on your straight stitch machine as well. It's totally fine. You just want to make sure to actually run it over twice, making sure one edge is sewn down and the other edge is sewn down as well. So what I mean by is actually sewing it from one edge up there and then another edge at the bottom. So both edges of the elastic would be sewn down. So after sewing it all down, now we're going to be putting in our back closure. So as you guys can see, my back closure is actually a little bit off. I couldn't really find the exact color to match this, and I had this laying around, so I just decided to use this instead. So the next thing we're going to do is to take the left side of our bra and actually attach the hooks. So you have the hooks. As you guys can see, mine is the 3 hooks and 3 eyes. So we're just going to fold the edge of our lace pattern about 1/4 of an inch, and we're just going to pin that together. So we're just going to go right ahead and actually sew this down. You can hand stitch this if you want, or you can sew it on the sewing machine. The next thing we're going to do is to actually trim. I decided to trim it down. You don't have to, but I decided to trim mine down because I didn't want all that bulkiness. And as you guys can see, I trimmed mine down, and we're going to do the exact same thing to this other side. We're just going to fold in the edge of our lace fabric about 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to be top stitching this. Now for this, I didn't want to sew this on the sewing machine because it is a little small piece, and I just didn't want to have to worry my sewing machine. So I decided to just hand stitch the hooks. So you just want to make sure to just neatly go through it and give it a nice straight stitch. Just sew this down neatly from one edge to the other.
this is going to give it a really nice finish. As you guys can see, you also want to go ahead and make sure to actually sew down the other side of your closure as well, which is the side with the actual eyes. So after sewing it down, it should look something like this. So I have my hooks all sewn up and hand stitched, and I have my eyes, which I just ran through the sewing machine. Now, this actually comes with hooks on the other side as well. You can decide to take this off if you want, but I just decided to leave it because first I didn't want to have to worry about it, and it really wasn't hurting when I put on the bra. So I decided to leave it, but you can take it out if you want. The next thing we're gonna do is to actually put in our straps. Now, earlier in the video, I showed you guys these straps I did order online, but I wasn't really happy with the way they looked. They were just too big for me. So I decided to actually use the lingerie straps that we use to finish the edges of our bra. And I decided to use that as my actual strap. And it actually worked out really great. So if you do decide to use this, you just want to make sure to sew down at the edge of your front bra, which is right at that point. You can't miss it. And also match it to the notch at the back that we marked from the pattern. So you want to make sure to just stitch this down, nice straight stitch on both sides, making sure that everything is nice and flat. So once you've gone ahead and actually sew this down on the sewing machine, we are pretty much done with our bra, guys. Like, everything is looking nice and neat. The next thing we're gonna do is really just a lot of finishes. I love the scallop edge in this lace fabric, so I actually decided to put it around my lace fabric to give it, you know, that feminine look. So I just went ahead and I'm actually trimming all that excess lace away from the actual scallop edges, and you just want to make sure to get this edges, and we're going to be placing this along the edges of our actual bra. So basically you want to make sure to place it just like this. As you guys can see, I'm going to be walking this all around my bra. I'm pinning this around the bra, making sure that it's nice and flat, and it's giving it that feminine, you know, really cute look. So you want to make sure to pin this around your bra all the way around the edges, and we're going to be actually sewing this on the sewing machine. Now, some people would actually hand stitch this, but I just decided to use the sewing machine because it was faster and it really looked nice after. So as you guys can see, I pinned this all around the bottom edges and the top edges as well, and it looks really, really great, guys. So I just went right ahead and actually sewed this on the sewing machine. You want to make sure that when you are sewing this, you want to make sure to actually follow the curves and making sure that you're actually catching the scallop edge on the lace. You don't want to have any holes or any seams that you didn't sew or things like that. You want to make sure that it's actually catching when you're sewing it all around. And again, do not pull. Just make sure to feed it nice and neat as you're sewing along. So that is pretty much the end of your bra process, you guys. It looks absolutely amazing. It's laying nice and flat. And also make sure to press everything when you're done.
So that is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. I love making bras. Like, that was actually my first time making it. And I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm probably gonna be making a whole lot more. Like, it ended up looking really cute, and I was so happy with the fit. So make sure to scroll down. I attach everything I used in this tutorial, so you guys can definitely buy as many and as you want, and just keep making bras. Yeah. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please, if you do, give this video a big thumbs up. And if you have any questions about any of the materials or anything, or you just want to say hi, make sure to scroll down and leave me a couple of words. I'm definitely looking at those as well. Now, one thing I do want you guys to do, if you do make these bras, do not forget to tag me or share your pictures with me on Instagram, Facebook, or anywhere else at DamiAdeNikeX. If you haven't hit the subscribe button already, please make sure to do so at the bottom of this giant screen. Make sure to hit down that red subscribe button so you can see more awesome videos from me. And I hope to catch you awesome sew addicts next week.